I'm Merle Calvert. I'm the founder of Ferilio. We are a brand new newbie law tech startup. So we are a subscription-based, mobile-friendly platform that makes law speedy, easy, safe and affordable for small businesses. We started almost a year ago. So it's been a massive race, I guess, to create something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. I mean, this has been a long time building, but it's the first time I think really I've gone from entrepreneur, so somebody really trying to make a change, to our profession and to business, from the inside of another business to entrepreneur and sort of going it alone. It's the first time really I've felt brave enough to do just that. Finding the right people, feeling like I had the right skills, knowing even half of what it takes to run a business. I think you can spend, as I have, 20 years advising businesses and 20 years of being in a business in a different role. It's very different when you're out there and you're on your own, and it feels a bit like you're on the cliff face and you're looking down and you're thinking, I know I can jump, but right now I have no idea what kind of parachute I want or what lies at the bottom, or who's going to pick me up when I get there and help me start running. Law, for me, always has presented the best prospect of blending everything that I love into something that I can use as a launch board for something else. I'm an antitrust lawyer by background. It was the area of law that I most loved. So I was very fortunate in that the firm I joined enabled me to build an app, to investigate technology, to really learn a lot more and hone my skill. But after about 3 years, I felt as though I couldn't do the job I wanted to do, because if I wanted to advise on anything other than antitrust law, it needed to go to somebody else, or we couldn't put it on the billing narrative, or I was having to put down every hour I was working. And in my view, some of the hours I was working were as much for me and my learning of what more I could do to add to the business clients that I was advising. I suppose I started looking for a solution and that spot where I would be able to be much more entrepreneurial. And I started thinking, maybe I should try something on my own, but technology wasn't really where I needed it to be. I don't think I was anywhere near brave enough. I'm still not sure some mornings that I'm brave enough, but I definitely wasn't then. And I think it's very easy as somebody sort of standing on that do I, don't I cliff face to look at other people's success stories and think, oh my goodness, that's so inspiring, but I'm not like that. By luck and by coincidence, actually, I ended up being recruited by an insurance business who wanted to do something radically different with the legal service solution that they had that supported their insurance policy. We got talking about, I've got this idea, I'd like to do a platform, this is how I would like to do it. They saw that as hugely supportive. It was a very brilliant and quick way to demonstrate, in my view. I think very few people have the real luck to be given the opportunity to build a prototype solution on somebody else's budget with a very nice community of visionary people built around you, and that's what I did. It worked to such a point that I didn't really want to be constrained by just supporting one business's insurance product, which is really where it started to become channeled towards. And I think I'd learned enough, I'd become brave enough, and this whole community of incredible people that I'd never had access to before were suddenly known and visible and supportive and inspiring. And I think really, I say this all the time, it's the people that make the magic happen, whether they're the people on the team or the people that are around you. And it was and has been people that really propelled me this time last year to make that leap. The platform does what I think law should have done a very long time ago, because actually I don't think the problem was with law, it's the delivery of law. And you've got 5.7 small businesses, 5.7 million small businesses now out there in the UK who find law intimidating, baffling, very costly, very time-consuming, and frankly not particularly business or user-friendly. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got law firms who really don't find startups and small businesses are particularly profitable or attractive customer group, and yet they both need each other. I mean, 5.7 million customers who are saying, we'd like it, we want it. You only have to look at the surveys that the Law Society does, that people like Richard Susskind writes about in Tomorrow's Lawyer, and the trade association surveys that the Federation of Small Businesses and others do, to know that there is demand. So it's not as though the market isn't there. But then you look at what lawyers are faced with, which is this ever increasing pressure to reduce their prices, work faster, work in ways that don't necessarily match the way that traditional law firms are set up to work. And really good caliber lawyers are not getting to really needy SMEs. What we do is we plug that bit in the middle. So the aim is not to say, you'll never need a lawyer again, because for sure you will. But actually to provide a solution that makes it super efficient for great caliber law firms to give really good advice when it's needed to a SME community who can effectively click, swipe, tap, command and customize their way through what they need, when they need it, paying as much as they need and no more for that, as we do with accountancy solutions, as we do with insurance, you know, pretty much every other aspect of what we do as businesses and also as consumers, because we're still individual consumers working in businesses, pretty much everything else is at our fingertips. I think the biggest challenge we have is pace and expectation, and it's managing our own expectations as much as it is managing other people's expectations. I think the wonderful thing about building a business in a tech startup community is you have access to plenty of people who will test your product and tell you how rubbish it is and what works and what doesn't, and it makes you stronger and better for it. So I think a bigger challenge is managing our own expectations, and it's that classic, I want it to do everything and I want it to do it now, as opposed to really learning to pace yourself, to adopt the entrepreneurial MVP philosophy, you know, minimum viable product, get that, do it really well, and then bolt on and enhance. Don't kind of try and create something that's all singing or dancing, but actually doesn't do anything particularly well, because you sort of get lost in that, what do you do and why is it valuable mess. So I think managing our own expectations, managing the pace that we work at is the most important thing. But yes, ultimately it's launching to market and creating and selling something that people really want and really buy. I don't really know what drives me. I sometimes wish I could put a finger on it. I think it is ultimately at its root a need to change things for the better. And I think if I look at my approach to everything through life, it's been to make things better. It's never been to be the person with the title. It's never been to be the kind of the leader of the pack. And in fact, I think as a founder, one of the things I bristle against most is people describing me as a CEO, because that sounds not like me at all. I still roll up my sleeves, I still flounder every day. I'm definitely a guppy when it comes to learning what it takes to be a business. But I think it's really that sense of I want to be able to say, I did that and it made a difference. And I guess the only way I can do that is to bring together everything I've kind of learned, the good and the bad, the mistakes and the kind of the bits where it's gone right, make a change for the better. And I think for a long time I was trying to do that from inside a business. And it worked, but it was just never enough. I think that's what drives me. Yes, I do, but I think happiness is relative, isn't it? You know, you can be stressed out of your mind, but ultimately still really happy because it's a choice that you've made. One of my very good friends said a little while ago, you know, basically, I think you have to face it, you've become unemployable. And I really hated that. And my instinctive reaction was, I've always been a really good employee. I've always wanted to do a really good job. I've always hit my KPIs and obsessed about things that haven't been perfect. Why would I be unemployable? And she burst out laughing and she said to me, that wasn't quite what I meant. It's you need to break out of where you've been and you know, really get on with doing what your potential is. But yeah, it's a really good question, because I think that ultimately is what makes me happy. It's waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning on occasion, not every night, and thinking, oh, I wonder, and then being able to follow that through, and being able to go home at the end of the day and actually say to my children, you don't have to follow a classic conventional route, and to be able, I suppose, to share those learnings, because they're so valuable. I look at what my 9-year-old daughter is doing now and her ideas, and I compare that with the much more traditional route, I suppose, to academics and study and choice of career that I took. And it's really wonderful to go home and say, well, that's relevant to here, and look what we're doing and how that works in the real world, and I suppose really show something tangible to her, to say, you know, this has its rewards and this is making me happy, and you could do something like this too. I think I'm the hardest thing, because I'm the hardest thing on myself. And I've still got that lawyer's drive and fear, I suppose, about things being perfect. And one of my favourite people in the world, she was the head of sales at the Diamond Trading Company, so with a company within the De Beers Group where I worked for a long time. She became the CEO. And she's very, very different personality-wise for me. It's one of the reasons why when I started this particular journey, it was her that I wanted alongside us on the advisory committee. She's also backed us, which is amazing as an investor. But she would routinely say to me, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to get out there and then you iterate. And you know, to say that to a lawyer is deeply uncomfortable for me to hear, because I wanted stuff to be perfect and right and not to create risks or big problems. And I think that's something I'm partly trained to do over many years of being a lawyer. I think it's also probably partially innate too. But it means that whatever you do, it never quite feels good enough, and I have to rein myself back sometimes, control the inner chimp, and just be a bit more realistic sometimes about how physically possible sometimes, as well as mentally, it is to do some of these things. And I think whereas you've got to, as an entrepreneur, be really confident that ultimately you'll find a way to deliver even if you don't know the answer today, you also have to be really realistic about the fact that there are some things you cannot fix on your own. And there are some things that will not be perfect, and that's fine. And there are other things that actually can either wait or just don't need to be done, and that doesn't mean that you're failing, but I think you constantly have that fear of, if I haven't done everything and it's not perfect and I haven't ticked every boxes, it's not going to be good enough. I think something that every good entrepreneur grapples with for sure. Back yourself. Because if you don't, no one else can. And it's something that you absolutely have to remember. I mean, even to the point where I was having a Twitter conversation with one of my friends the other day, I got to the point where I had to write "believe" in red lipstick on my mirror in the mornings because it was tough. And I think you have to believe, and you do believe, and deep down you believe, but all sorts of things will derail you, and they feel huge at the time, and you get very emotionally caught up with what you're doing. Of course you do, because it's your passion and it's your baby and it's all on you. That sometimes just stepping back and saying, I'm going to back myself here. There's a reason I did this. There's a reason I spent 20 years getting to this point. Whatever it is that's driven to you to this point, it's real. And by backing yourself, you need to get over yourself, you need to reach out, you need to ask the right questions. Whatever it is you need to do, backing yourself is the most important thing you can do, because if you don't, no one else can. I think you have mad moments where you just think, oh, I would just like to switch off. Give up? No. There are a few moments where I think, you know, I would like a little bit more peace of mind and a little bit more space. And, you know, if you are as obsessed as I am, and I know many of other people building businesses are, if you're as obsessed about it as you feel, giving up isn't an option. It will be surrounded by people who matter. We deliberately converted the whole of the bottom of the house so that people can come and go, and they do. We can all be in certain areas but still really connected with each other, and I think that for me is wonderful. So even if I'm reading a book and I'm having a few quiet moments, being in the same space as the people that matter is really important. I read all sorts of things. Actually, do you know what? I think my biggest problem when it comes to reading is being a bit too flitty. I sort of dip in and dip out. I like to mull things over a lot. So I like going back to things too. So I like to read science fiction or fantasy fiction, which completely removes me from any form of reality, but challenges me. I think what's really interesting as well is when you can switch your brain off and you can read something completely removed. That's sometimes where your best ideas come from, because it's not what a book can tell you, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, whether it's a biography, whatever it is, it's what it triggers in your mind and how you relate to it. And I love those moments of completely random, oh, hang on a minute, I can write it down. And I think even some of the functionality that we've built into the Ferilio platform now has come from completely random fiction at times of, well, actually, why not? I'm proud of my brain for just coping with the number of crazy, mad, incredibly time-consuming ideas that I have alongside everything else that happens in life, and managing to balance it. I'm not proud of any particular achievement. I think there's still a lot ahead of me that I need to achieve to feel proud, but I think it's the journey and the grit and the determination. And I suppose if I'm proud of something, it's the discovery that I'm braver than I thought I was. But that doesn't translate to any particular event or achievement as yet. I wish I'd had the courage to do it sooner. I'm going to make sure that what I've learned, whether that's as a lawyer, or a general counsel, whether it's as a business person, whether it's as a mum, I'm going to ensure that knowledge, from the mistakes to the points of revelation, that they're shared and that they make a real difference, and they do make things better for the people that I can share.